Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Sheraton, and this is my show in the ends. Tonight's show, I've made a last minute change. Uh, Something recently came to my attention that I found so shocking, so deeply shocking that I frankly um, I was a little speechless. I'm not afraid to say it. I was actually rather speechless to the point that I didn't really have, I didn't really know what to say. Now, judging from today's title, you can see what the topic of tonight's show will be. It's in regards to Hancock's WhatsApps. There are links in the description that point to various articles that go into greater detail about what this is. But to summarize, Matt Hancock is the former health secretary of um, of Britain. He was the UK's former health secretary. He was the person who was in charge of our pandemic response. And basically, basically, he had to manage the response. He recently wrote a WhatsApp. He recently wrote a book for which a very well known journalist of the name Isabel Oakeshott. She ghostwrote his book for him. Because he's been so what's the word? He's been so disgraced as a health secretary. He got into trouble for having an affair with one of his aides during lockdown. He was caught on camera in his office on camera having an illicit affair with someone else who was married to someone else. He himself was a married man, and he got in trouble. He got captured on camera, and that happened. Now, I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over some things here tonight. Right, the Telegraph. Right. What do you Matt? There's one about him. There's a news article from the Telegraph newspaper. I don't even. Okay. I'm going to find the article and I'm going to start reading. But I don't know if you remember, I did a reading on him before. He's the government minister who went into the jungle on a celebrity TV show called I'm Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And he went onto this TV show because he's a disgraced former health minister who, as I said, his disgrace was that he was breaking lockdown rules by having an illicit affair with one of his aides who happened to be married to somebody else. And in the course of that being captured on camera and splashed across the news and newspaper outlets as well, he ended up having to leave his wife probably quicker than he had anticipated and shack up with this next woman. He also ended up having to resign his position because he broke lockdown rules by not being socially distant from his aide, who he was having the affair with. And the way he was playing grab ass with her on the camera, you know, it was clearly not socially distanced. So there's all of that. Whew, right. So that was part one. Part two, he decided he was going to go into the jungle because he felt he needed to tell his side of the story to try and resurrect his reputation in some way or save some kind of career. And he decided, well, since he wasn't doing so well in the Tory party anymore, he was now going to become a celebrity. So that was part two, and he launched his book. Part three to Matt Hancock now, as the ghostwriter for his book, a woman by the name of Isabel Oakeshott, she comes along and she writes his book for him for free. And in return, she says, oh, give me your messages. So he gives her complete access to his phone, gets her to sign an NDA to say that a non-disclosure agreement, gives her complete access to his phone. So all the WhatsApp messages, all the messages that he exchanged with every single government minister, every single newsroom editor, everyone, she now has complete access to it. What does she do? She looks through his WhatsApp messages at the time when he was health secretary, and then she releases this huge barrage of private messages between government ministers and civil servants that was never even on public records and was never ever supposed to see the light of day. Never. But she releases all this information, right? So she releases the information. And guess what? The WhatsApp messages are absolutely incendiary. I am 100% sure that not only has this destroyed Matt Hancock's career as a celebrity, his career as a politician was already done, but on top of it all, this is about to destroy a number of other people's careers. And there are a number of other questions to be asked because the other questions that now have to be asked with some of these messages, I mean, scare campaign. Where's the scare campaign? The other messages that have to be asked now are, yes, here we go. Wanted to frighten pants off public. Okay, this is what I've been looking for. Okay. Right. He said there would be a protective ring around care homes. He lied. There are a number of messages here that clearly show that not only was this about Project Fear, not only was this about okay, was this about Project Fear. There are some other messages here, and I'm going to read this one to you from the Evening Standard. Matt Hancock told aides he wanted to frighten the pants off everyone to ensure compliance with COVID-19 restrictions in leaked messages which revealed discussions over when to deploy details of a new strain. You did not mishear me. In leaked messages which reveal discussions over when to deploy details of a new strain. Now you see, the paper puts in here details of a new strain. His messages do not. I'm getting back to that. The latest set of WhatsApp exchanges published in the Sunday Telegraph show how Mr. Hancock and others discussed how to use an announcement about the Kent variant of the variant to scare the public into changing their behaviour. You see, the thing is, and I want to make this point, that's not actually what they said in the message. That's not what the message actually said. When you see something, a reasonable person, especially something that seems incredible and unbelievable, a reasonable person will say, well, they didn't mean it like that. They must have meant it like this. And in that context, it makes sense. That's what a reasonable and intelligent person does. However, often reasonable and intelligent people cannot see the things that are taking place right in front of their faces. It reminds me of a Michael McDonald song, "The wise man has the power to reason away what he sees." So being a reasonable and logical person, we have the power to reason away what we see with our own two eyes and try to put it into a context, regardless of whether that context is necessarily even correct. Right, I'm going to read to you what the exchange has. Right, okay. Right. Matt Hancock's advisor says, rather than doing too much forward signalling, we can roll pitch with the new strain. We frighten the pants off everyone with the new strain, the then Health Secretary replied. But the complication with that Brexit is taking the top line. Yep, that's what will get proper behaviour change. When do we deploy the new variant? Said Matt Hancock. The conversation on December 13th came amid concerns about the rapid spread of the virus in South East England. Now, Matt Hancock had announced that a new COVID-19 variant had been identified in the UK. I'm reading you these excerpts because I didn't manage to get the article, the Telegraph article, because it's from the Daily Telegraph newspaper, where there's a list where you can see the exchange on WhatsApp messages in their little speech bubbles. What I'm going to say here is it's almost as if the media has walked in and seen her husband sitting on the sofa and some woman in a summer dress with no knickers, he's on top of him. And then he turns to the media and says, I'm not sleeping with her. She just fell and landed on my penis. And every time she tried to get up, she slipped down again. I'm sorry. And you know, the woman's looking at him, the media, she's looking at Matt and she's like, oh, that's unfortunate. The way these messages come across, it doesn't come across the way in quite the context the newspaper is making out. It comes across in a slightly different way when you actually look at the messages as they're flowing there. And I am not a person who is given to hyperbole, nor am I a person who is given to, these conspiracy theories. I'm not a conspiracy theorist type of person. My operating system is based on logic and reason. And yes, I do understand that things taken out of context can have very different meaning. But this, when do we deploy the new variant? He didn't say, when do we deploy the information for the new variant? He says, when do we deploy the new variant? Now, in this age where we have government ministers who will stand up not only in front of cameras during interviews, but also in the seat of our parliaments, they'll stand up in parliamentary floor and trot out blatant lies in our faces that are clearly and very easy to verify as lies. What are you supposed to believe? What are you supposed to believe? Really? And all these variants that they talked about, giving them different names, were they really actually COVID, or was it something else? Or I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think, and I don't know what to say. And I want to say that, maybe I'm being ridiculous and none of this is true. None of the things that are sparking off my head are true. I'm not one of those QAnon nut jobs. So I want to say that that's what he meant, but that's not what he said. And in this time where it's really difficult to make sense of truth, of fact, I'm not sure what to believe. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys. I'm going to leave that up to you guys to make up your own minds on what to think and what to believe. I am going to do a reading on this tonight because I am perturbed. I've been perturbed for the last few hours when I found out this information and discombobulated. So I'm going to do a reading on it. Exactly what the reading is going to be, the question is going to be tonight. I'm not 100% sure. I could ask the question, how many other government ministers are going to fall in regards to these WhatsApp leaks? Are we going to get any more horrible surprises? I could ask if this whole COVID thing was a deliberate action. I could ask that question. I guess I could ask if Matt Hancock's going to have the wit removed, but to be honest, I don't really care. I could ask if anyone's going to end up going to prison over the release, over the what is contained within these WhatsApp messages. I could ask that question. I'm really not sure what question to ask, but I feel shook. I feel shook because I have never believed that the pandemic was deliberate. I've never believed that for a second. But now I'm guessing, I'm wondering if that's the case because this this is shocking. This is shocking. And then there's also the whole situation with the vaccines. No one talks in any of these messages about natural immunity. People are only just beginning to talk about it now. The WHO, I think, have closed investigations into how the pandemic began in the first place. Although there are a number of intelligence agencies who've come to the conclusion that it was a lab-based leak. I honestly, and I've always believed it was as well. I mean, I have to give Donald Trump his dues. I think that's about probably the only nice thing I could ever say about Donald Trump. He said from the very beginning that it was a lab leak. He said that from the very beginning. That's the only thumbs up I'll ever give him, because he also was the same man who, pondered as to maybe whether drinking bleach would help to kill the virus and maybe sticking a light bulb up your ass. I'm just saying that not any light bulb, obviously, don't get too kinky. I mean a UV light bulb. That's what I'm talking about. But anyway, he always said that, and to be fair, I've always believed that. Especially considering I'm a person who likes to listen to scientists and clinicians. So those are where I get my sources of information when it comes to medical situations from. But yeah, this whole thing, I'm shook. So I want to know, is anyone going to face, apart from Matt Hancock, will these messages result in other government ministers or former government ministers facing court investigations or even perhaps criminal charges? That's what I'd like to know. I'm going to use my Game of Thrones tarot to give that information tonight. So that's one. Will any government ministers face government investigations or criminal investigations in regards to these WhatsApp messages? That's the first thing I want to look at. Okay, will government ministers receive have investigations launched, investigations and inquiries launched into their conduct, either by the Parliament or by the Crown Prosecution Service, by the police? Will there be police investigations after the leak of WhatsApp messages, or either police investigations or other government or public investigations? Other ones that have not yet been launched. Will there be new inquiries and investigations, both public and criminal, launched as a result of these WhatsApp messages? I'm going to take that card there and that card there. Okay. Right. Yeah, that card has flown out. Shit, where is that bloody card? There it is. Okay, that card's flown out. There's 3 cards. Okay. Will there be new investigations due to the WhatsApp messages? Criminal or parliamentary public investigations? Yes, that one there. Will there be new investigations? Will there be new investigations? Public, criminal, otherwise, as a result of these WhatsApp messages? Okay. Yes. No. Right? No. No. So for here in this part here, I'm going to say that one. That one? No. No. Let me spread these out a bit better. That one. That one. Okay, let's have a look and see how many cards I have. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You know what? That will do. That will do. If I have to take extra cards, I will take extra cards. So that's number 1. Number 2. I'm going to ask the burning question. Was COVID deliberately deployed in the UK? Was COVID deliberately deployed in the UK? What is the energy around the virus coming to the UK? What was the energy around the virus coming to the UK? That one. 1. That one. 2. 3. Okay. Right, I'm going to first look. What was the virus? The energy. Messiah. This was the energy around the virus coming to the UK. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Regardless of how it got here, the reason it got here from a spiritual perspective was to save humanity. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm going to say it. Why do I think that it came here to save humanity? I've said this before and I'll say it again. As a species, we've been going through a lot for the last few years. We've had political turmoil, we've had social turmoil, all kinds of social things. It came to a point where in this world, people needed to stop. The world needed to stop. There were so many people doing jobs that they didn't want to do, living lives in which they were deeply unhappy, losing emotional and physical and mental contact with the people they were supposed to be closest to in the world. So that could be with their kids, with their partners, with their family members. What COVID did is it made the whole world stop. And people who may have been on the verge of breaking up because they had become so emotionally distant from each other, husbands and wives, were now forced to stay in the same space as each other. For some people, it saved their marriage. For some people, it pushed their relationship to a new level where they could really identify whether this is a person that they wanted to stick with for the rest of their days. For other people, they came to the realization that they hated their partner. They couldn't stand them and they were utterly miserable. For those people, they probably would have stayed married. Many of them would probably have stayed married to the same person for another 2 or 3 years. But by forced contact, or stayed with the person for another couple of years at least, but by forced contact with this person 24 hours a day, they came to the realization that it wasn't their job that was making them miserable. It wasn't their lives as such that was making them miserable. It was the person standing next to them. For other people, they actually got the opportunity to get to know their children and to find out what was going on with their kids, who their kids really were as people. Many fathers got to spend time with their children in ways that they never had before. They never had before. The amount of times I will look out from my balcony or I'll be out and about and I will see so many fathers with their kids, with their little girls and their little boys pushing push chairs and buggies or just walking with their kids, and they look so happy and their children look so happy. I saw one man with his wife and his son. Yeah, and I think the wife was pushing a pushchair. And the son, they were walking onto the bus and the dad's going somewhere else. And the son turns to his dad and he shouts, "I love you, Daddy." And the dad shouts, "I love you too, son." And it made me smile. And I've seen so much more of that since the pandemic. So yes, I have believed, and I do believe, the pandemic happened to us for a spiritual reason, from a spiritual viewpoint, to save us so that we could get closer ties with each other, with our families, with our communities, so we could show each other love and get better and closer connections. And that's what this is about. The second card I have is the Artist. Expressing a light attribute, expressing a dimension of life that is just beyond the five senses, inspiring others to see life symbolically. What are we doing with our lives? What were we doing with our lives before? We were on the treadmill, constantly trying to make money so we could buy more crap that we didn't need. More crap that you don't need. Expressing a dimension of life that is just beyond the five senses, inspiring others to see life symbolically. So, more crap you don't need. Inspiring people to see life symbolically, to see meaning in life and meaning in the small things. And maybe we don't have the money, as much money as we like, but we have each other. And maybe we don't need all that crap to put in our house. Maybe it's not really that important. Maybe spend less time at work and more time with each other, because that's what we're working for anyway, right? But the final card, Trickster. Trickster. Why did COVID happen? How did it get here? Why? The why: to save us, to force us to look within. But the other element to the why, this is not a card I want you to see. This is not a card I want you to see. Because seeing this card, makes me feel the way I've reacted to these WhatsApp messages. I can feel pain right here. I'm stressed. The way I've reacted to these WhatsApp messages, for me to get this card, I leave it up to you to decide what that means. Trickster. I'm going to go with the shadow attribute. Manipulating others through duplicity. Now, even if you want to take the most tame interpretation of the messages that are in the description, in these news articles, even if you want to take the most tame description, it's quite clear there that there was a campaign to manipulate the general public into being as terrified as possible possibly by announcing the arrival of a new variant, possibly by, what did he say, deploying, was it information Was it? So let's see what the tarot has to say. King of Spears. I think this is Boris. Eight of Coins. Apprenticeship and working on something. Now, I said for the tarot, I wanted to know, are there going to be any additional investigations into the information released on these WhatsApp messages? Are they going, whether they're criminal investigations or public parliamentary investigations, are there going to be any more? I believe there's an issue there with Boris and an investigation. I think that's what this one brings up. It's an apprentice working on something. So yes, working on something. And the Parliamentary Privileges Committee is already launched an investigation into Boris Johnson. But I said additional investigations. Let's see. Okay. Another card that I really didn't want to get. So I see Boris here crossed by investigations and deception. In the past here, I have a King of Swords. I have a King of Swords. Who is this King of Swords? I'm going to pause to try and work that out in a minute. Oh, sugar. And this is a card that is crowning the reading. In the immediate future, I have my Rishi Sunak card, the Emperor. Taking charge and control. In everybody's mind, this is a complete, unmitigated effing disaster. It may seem like it's business as usual in Westminster. It is not business as usual in Westminster. People are losing their effing minds. The environment, people are trying to negotiate. They're trying to negotiate. They're trying to negotiate with Rishi. They're trying to negotiate to see if they can negotiate their way out of this shitstorm. That's what they're trying to do. The desire here is to move on to calmer waters. Whether they will or not is a bloody good question. Will they get the opportunity to move on to calmer waters? They really want to. They really desperately want to. That's what their desire is. I have here as an outcome card, as the final card here, the Six of Cups. People wishing things were the way they used to be. But as I said, I am going to do further analysis. This King of Swords. This King of Swords. Who the hell is this King of Swords in the past? Because I would have thought, I mean, Boris is a Gemini, so he could be the King of Swords. But I don't see him as a King of Swords type figure. He's more of a King of Spears type of guy. Hmm. Okay, so in the past we have analytical minds, professionalism. I don't think that they were particularly analytical or professional for that matter. I would say, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. You know, I said I believe that this person was Boris. And I believe that this is the investigation. And I believe that this is deceit, covert maneuvers, dishonesty, cover up. And this is all about, are there going to be any more investigations? This King of Swords in the past, this King of Swords in the past can you see that? You can see that, right? That's what that means. This crowns the reading. And the immediate future is one of control. Now, I know there are many people who'll be watching this video who don't read the tarot. And that's fine. But for those of you who do, you know what these cards mean. And even for those of you who don't, you can Google the meaning. But you don't have to read tarot to know that this crowning a reading is not a good thing. Now, the immediate future, Rishi is going to try to control the situation. He's going to try to step in to control the situation. I'll go a step further. He's going to try to step in to sever the situation. There is no accident that I've got so many swords here. He's going to try to sever the situation. So if somebody needs to be fired, they'll be fired. If somebody needs to stay in the background and kept quiet, they'll be kept quiet. They'll be kept quiet so the storm can pass over them. But people are losing their minds. They are losing their minds. And they are desperately, desperately, desperately trying to negotiate with Rishi to see if there's some way they can wrangle things, to see if it's possible for them to move on to calmer waters. this is his desire to try and get things to move on to calmer waters. This Six of Cups, though, I don't see this as an outcome card. I really don't. So, you know, the Six of Cups, it's all about the good old days and nostalgia. And let's get back to what we were doing before. They're going to have a difficult time, a very difficult time adapting to present circumstances. That's what that's telling me. A very difficult time adapting to what's happening now. There's going to be endings. Will there be an investigation? I think probably yes. But whether it will be public or not, I don't think so. It's not going to be a public investigation. I don't see a public investigation. But in order for there to be a public investigation in the house, all right, this is this is normally a yes card, but it doesn't have to be a yes card. It can be a card of beginnings and endings. Most often it's about beginnings. But beginnings of what? Possibly beginnings of an investigation in the house. However, in order for it to be successful, it's going to be really, really hard work, because they're going to do everything they possibly can to cover stuff up. Escaping out of difficulty. Broken-hearted. In isolation. Who is this for? Who is this for? Broken-hearted and isolation, hard work, escaping out of difficulty. Who is this for? Strength. I do believe there's going to be an investigation, as a matter of fact. I think it's quite clear here. Yes, there's going to be an investigation in the house. It's going to be bloody hard work. There will be people who will get away with things, but there will also be people who fall by the sword. Those who fall by the sword will be isolated. Isolated. That's Matt. Strength here. Strength here for those who get out of difficulty. 10 of Cups. Someone's legacy will be one of heartbreak. Definitely Matt, no doubt about it. His career is absolutely categorically over. But there's someone else here who's going to face heartbreak as well. Who is that? Knight of Queens. From what I see here, there will be an investigation. There will be a parliamentary investigation, and people are going to work really, really hard on it. It won't be a public investigation. I think 2, possibly 3 people are going to face questions via committee. One of them is going to get away with things. It'll be a sticky wicket for him, but he'll get away with it. Let me see. because I often read the cards this way. One of them will get away with it by way of strength. One person will get away. One person will be totally brokenhearted. The house will come down on him, break their heart, and their legacy will be for shit. And the third person, they're going to work really, really, really hard on trying to get this person. This person will be isolated, but they will survive because they're the type of person who will put their heads down and just work through it. That's Ten of Spears, the Hermit, and the Knight of Coins. None of these reading is a reading that I would normally have done. I'm not given to conspiracy theories. I'm not really into that. My operating system is based on logic, regardless of the fact that I read cards. I'm more of a person who deals with logic rather than feelings. I don't like getting too emotional. You know, do you know the saying, if a person shows you who they are, believe them? Don't try to read into what a person says. Just watch what they do. And their pandemic response was shambolic. We were told that there would be a ring around care home residents, but even after realizing that asymptomatic spread was a thing, people were being released into care homes, in the community, without being tested to see if they had COVID. Care homes were being encouraged to take patients from hospital, some of which at first had not been tested because they didn't have the tests available, obviously. And then after having been tested, they were still trying to encourage care homes by giving them bonuses for taking people out of hospital, some of whom they knew had the virus, but they said they were going to use masks and do some isolation protocols. But they still wanted to encourage them to take those people. We lost over 40,000 people in care homes to this virus. We lost, I don't know how many hundreds of people who worked in healthcare to this virus. So many gone. So many gone. And whilst there are very many positives from a spiritual perspective for this having happened, very many positives. I mean, 2 out of 3 for the energies. This is not a card I wanted to see. This is not a video I wanted to make. This is not a card I wanted to see in the past. Where is it, mate? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Find that horrible card. And this is not a card I wanted to see crown this reading. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe. Please feel free to comment on the video. Whether I agree with you or not, I will like your video anyway. I will like and reply to your video for sure. Even this one, which is one I never wanted to make. So with that, I'm going to bid you good night. Who knows? This could well be the last video you ever see from me on YouTube. If it is, I've had a blast. And good night.